live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Yes, it is. Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. Final day of March. Can you believe it? Friday, the 31st. We're going in depth tonight on the unprecedented indictment of former President Donald Trump. Plus, our winter weather is just not letting up. What it means for the state's drought and our snowpack. But before we dive in, here's a look at what is making headlines tonight. You may have seen this during some of our live coverage on 2 News at 4, 2 News at 5. Little Rock, Arkansas being hit by what's described as a catastrophic tornado, maybe even multiple moving through that area of Arkansas. There's been reports of damage in the Little Rock metro area. Also making headlines tonight. You probably saw this morning on 2 News this morning. The snow caused really slick roads in various parts of northern Utah. UHP troopers say they responded to dozens of crashes. Part of Highway 89, Davis County closed of slide-offs. I-80, Parsley's Canyon, even shut down for a while. And of course here, a lot of concern in both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon. Leaders for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints now gearing up for this weekend's General Conference taking place tomorrow and Sunday at the Conference Center in downtown Salt Lake City. Also making headlines, Lagoon Amusement Park. It's about that time, right? Opening date pushed back second time now because of snow. The Farmington Amusement Park will open its doors and hopefully spin some of those cool coasters next Saturday, April 8th. Hey, as we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us by using the hashtag 2NewsLive. Join the conversation. You can always find me on Facebook, also on Twitter, Instagram. Send me a direct message there to weigh in. Well, we've got to go in depth on this tonight. We begin with the indictment of former President Donald Trump. The Associated Press now reporting the former president facing multiple charges of falsifying business records, which includes at least one felony offense, in the indictment handed down by a Manhattan grand jury. Trump will formally be arrested and arraigned Tuesday in his hush money case. Here's a live look right now from Trump Tower tonight in New York City. Secret Service agents will escort Trump to his arraignment, where the indictment will be formally unsealed. As of right now, still sealed, and the former president will be asked to enter a plea. Let's go in depth now on the indictment of former President Donald Trump. We've learned that Mr. Trump will be arraigned on Tuesday. Joining me now is Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman from Washington. Now, Scott, thanks for joining me. What kind of reaction are you seeing in D.C. today?
Yeah, Brian, from Democrats, it's been notably quiet. In fact, President Biden was asked about it on the White House lawn this morning, and he said he's not going to talk about it. And for the most part, Democrats have been standing back a little bit, other than saying that they believe that there should be a following of the letter of the law. And in this case, they say the former president appears to have committed a crime and therefore needs to be held responsible, that no one's above the law. We hear that a lot. From Republicans, a much different tune. It continues to be one of saying that this is, in the mantra that we've continued to hear from the former president, a witch hunt. In fact, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene amping things up, saying that she's encouraging protests in New York next week and that she too now plans to be there in person to join them. So the rhetoric getting louder with every passing hour. Brian?
Scott Thuman with us from Washington. Scott, you spoke with a former U.S. attorney today. Does he have concerns about District Attorney Alvin Bragg?
Well, he says the concern is not so much Alvin Bragg himself, but how he's handling it. So the advice that this former U.S. attorney said should be considered is being more open with the public. In other words, we know this is a sealed indictment. We know that prosecutors typically don't like to play these things out before the cameras. They like the courtroom to do that. But in this particular instance, considering that this is a former president, there's been a lot of criticism that Bragg needs to at least be a little more forthcoming with what he is pursuing, why he is pursuing it, and defend some of these accusations that perhaps there's a political motivation behind this, or that these are drummed up charges, that statute of limitations is being called into question, and really explain why he believes there is more validity to this case. That may happen in time, but so far that silence has allowed for the skeptics to really voice their displeasure and criticism of the DA.
Going in depth on what is a historic indictment of former President Donald Trump. Scott, how does this impact other pending cases?
Well, look, across the board, there are legal experts who believe that the other potential criminal cases against the former president are much stronger and have a higher rate of perhaps success when it comes to a conviction. For example, they look at the election interference claims in Georgia. There are audio tapes that they say are damning against the former president. That case is a more serious case with more critical repercussions against the former president. Taking documents from the White House, top secret papers, and bringing them to Mar-a-Lago, they say that looks relatively clear-cut. Little complication there, though, because they say if you go after Trump for that, you also then have to look at cases regarding current President Biden as well as former Vice President Mike Pence. And then third, you've got these accusations of sedition by the former president here in Washington, D.C. for inciting a riot on January 6th. So all of those cases now sit on the back burner because precedent will show that this case, which is first charges against the former president, have to be taken first. And because they could be elongated, this could be a prolonged process if Trump's attorneys wanted to be, those other cases would sit in the wings, and 2024 could be a very complicated, long year. Some of those may not see the light of day for quite some time.
Well, a lot of factors at play. Time will tell with this one. Scott Thuman, our chief political correspondent, joining us from Washington, D.C. Scott, thank you for the insight.
You got it.
Well, from a D.C. perspective to things here locally, we're going to continue our in-depth coverage. I had a lengthy conversation with Carson Jorgensen, chair of the Utah GOP. Take a listen. What do you make of the news surrounding former President Donald Trump's indictment?
You know, this is one of those things that time's going to tell, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to jump out in front of this early, and I don't think that's a smart place to be because there's way too much up in the air here. Political gamesmanship above all. I mean, Republicans are honestly getting tired of it. It was the Russia hoax, and it was the Steele dossier, and then it was the raids on Mar-a-Lago, and then it was Ukraine. And I mean, not in that order, but it's been one thing after another, and every time the same thing happens, nothing ever happens. And so Republicans just believe this is going to be the same thing over again.
Where do you think things go from here regarding that? Do you think more things get pulled into that from other avenues? I mean, you think it gets really messy?
Yeah, I mean, this really has no choice but to get messy. But honestly, I don't think this is going to do anything but help President Trump, to be honest, because it just brings more attention. I've heard down the pipe that there are people who haven't voted for him in the past that are like, you know what, if they don't want him in there this bad that they're willing to continue this persecution of him and chase these little things down, that they're going to vote for him in the upcoming election.
How do you think the people of Utah view former President Trump right now?
Yeah, you know, there was that poll that came out, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago, that still showed President Trump at 49% among registered Republicans here in the state of Utah. That's a great number for him going forward. And like I say, this I think is just going to help continue to drive that. People are just going to say, you know what, if this is how it's going to be, he must be doing something right.
Obviously, if you're interested in more of that coverage, we will be having a lot more of it, and you can find it on our website, KUTV.com. And I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about this at 5:30, maybe next week, the week to come.
Well, that's because
it's not going to go away.
There is a winter storm watch that starts Sunday.
Well, look
for
at this.
The mountains.
So look at this. You see clear roads there. It looks like
2
everybody
feet.
should be going to Snowbird right now and go take a dip there in the spa up at the cliff. But what a day it's been in Little Cottonwood.
Brian, there's another 2 feet of snow coming.
Can you believe
Sunday
it?
night into Monday.
I was just checking the Alta website because I woke up this morning and I saw them break the 800-inch mark for the season. Right, big deal. 811 at the last check.
Well, we're going to add 24 more at least.
My goodness.
Because the ones coming next week is a lot colder. So the snow level is going to come down again.
At some point, this has got to stop.
It's got to stop. Yeah.
This has to stop because it could have some serious repercussions, though.
It will. And especially with temperatures like this in the 40s, we need to be up in the upper 50s, low 60s, start getting some of that low elevation snowpack down. Let's get to the forecast and show you what we've got going on. And as we talk about it, you can see that we do have a little break between storms. A little break. Isn't that nice? So Saturday is going to be nice. Sunday is going to be nice for most of the day. And then we have snow developing Sunday night, well, actually Sunday evening through Sunday night into Monday morning, and that's going to cause some problems for the morning commute. So we're putting up the first alert weather day already because this one looks like a fairly decent storm coming in. Lots of cold air associated with it. The jet stream is strong. The jet stream is going to be right over northern Utah. So this is going to be another one of those perfect storms that develops on Monday. And I know everybody's going, ugh. But you know, We'll take it. We'll use it. We'll figure out how to get it out of those mountains safely. And here comes another storm. But enjoy the weekend because it is going to be nice. But we do have this winter storm warning in effect till 9 o'clock tonight. I don't think you'll see major impacts from this, but there is that winter storm watch through Sunday afternoon through Tuesday for the mountains of northern Utah, including the western Uintas. So, yeah, definitely some more snow headed this direction. But tonight, how about 25 in Price, 29 in Richfield? Clear skies across the central and southern parts of the state. Northern Utah will see partly cloudy skies generally, but maybe some clearing at times. 25 in Price for the overnight low. Highs tomorrow looking pretty nice. 55 in Provo and Nephi, 58 in Richfield, 65 in Page, 67 in St. George. We will be close to 60 degrees tomorrow here in Salt Lake City if we don't actually hit it. You can see Delta there, it's 60 degrees, so there's some really warm air is really pushing in quickly across the state tomorrow. So here's future track. Here comes some nice clearing skies, warm air, some high clouds, maybe a shower or two as we move into, let's say, Saturday night around 10 o'clock. There could be a few snow showers over the mountains, but then this cold front starts settling south through the day, overnight, I should say, on Monday. This is noon on Sunday, overnight Sunday into Monday, and this is when the snow starts. And that's why, you know, right along the jet stream here, so we've got a good, decent snowstorm that develops from Provo to Logan, so we could get additional snowfall in the valleys and the mountains. That's why we're calling for a first alert weather day on Monday, because it does look interesting. Now, after this next storm and into next week, this is what we're looking at. Believe it or not, there's a better chance, and this is what this means, a higher chance, not that it's that much below normal, but a higher chance of below normal precipitation moving into the Pacific Northwest and California, and above normal moves into the Gulf Coast states. And here's the ideal warm-up. We should be 1st of April, 59, 61 by the 15th, 67 by May 1st, 72 by May 15th, 78 by May 31st. This is the ideal. We're going to be tracking this for you right here on 2 News over the next several weeks, let you know where we are in relation to that perfect situation. So below normal temperatures moves off into the northern plains. We start to see more normal stuff. 67 tomorrow in St. George, 72 on Sunday, 59 with some thunder showers on Monday, and then maybe a shower lingering on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're well below normal until Friday. We warm back up to 68. The normal high is 72. Salt Lake City, we're 60 tomorrow, 50 on Sunday, and then 45 on Monday, 40 on Tuesday with snow Monday and Tuesday both. We're going to continue to watch this whole situation. Now, check out this graphic right here. This is the line of thunderstorms across Arkansas up into Tennessee. You can see that there's a lot of lightning. There's a lot of cells. This whole area is under a tornado watch through this evening. Memphis is under the gun. You can see we've already had those tornadoes going through Arkansas. And then this is the wind that's blowing across the southern plains right now. Northwest winds behind that cold front. And that's what's causing all the fire problems in Oklahoma.
Well, Sterling, obviously on the national stage, there's so much concern here. Locally, I mean, we're just piling up, though.
We're piling up the snow.
I know a lot of people are sick and tired of shoveling at this point.
I mean, there was 6 inches in some places in Davis County this morning on the benches. I know sandy along the benches. It was mainly at the benches. Most of the freeway systems were okay, but the benches really got hit overnight last night, and it was heavy, wet snow. It had a lot of water in it, and that's what the mountains are picking up. So somehow, some way, we have to get all that water out of the mountains and down into the Great Salt Lake or into the reservoirs or wherever it's going. So,
you just showed the graphic from Arkansas. Let's take you there right now with a live look here. Want to show you what's happening on the ground there, if we have it. That is literally on the ground. Some damage there. What looks like a bike shop. I mean, you and I were looking at some of the video to come through here, some drone video, just showing the utter devastation in this area.
Houses that are just cement blocks now.
It's frightening.
The houses are gone.
Yeah, it's devastating to look at. Also want to show you what's happening in Oklahoma. Here's some video from earlier today. This is video you can see from a helicopter. This thing was flying around for at least a few hours. I was watching it because you were seeing not only these fires spread, but again, a different type of devastation here. Homes catching fire and burning to the ground. right in front of our eyes. It's just two stark contrast moments here in two different states.
And how does that spread? Well, you've got winds that are blowing 30 to 50 miles per hour. So the embers, they get lifted up in that smoke plume and they drop down on somebody else's roof, and that house starts on fire. So it's just a constant seeding of the fire with the very strong winds.
Well, that combined, of course, with extremely low humidity levels,
Yep.
high winds,
8% humidity.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ripe for wildfire to spread. And of course, the other part of this is they're still considered to be, extreme, even exceptional drought in some parts of that state?
Yeah, very dry conditions across the Central Plains. Even though they have severe storms in the spring, those severe storms drop pockets of rain. They don't drop rain over the whole state. So that's why we're seeing these dry conditions. Kansas is the same way. Nebraska's fairly dry. So all of the Central Plains have seen very low precipitation.
Well, coming back here home to Utah tonight, we're going to go in depth on the snowpack situation. We've been talking about record-breaking totals for snowfall at resorts, and we mentioned the number at Alta right now at 811 on the year. I just spoke with Jordan Clayton. You've spoken with him many times before, supervisor for the Utah Snow Survey, about the snowpack and the future months because of all this snow. Take a listen.
We're still looking at every basin in the state of Utah greater than 160% of normal snowpack. It's really just an unbelievable season. We have a large number of our major basins that are actually greater than 200% of normal snowpack. So it's just mind-boggling how much snow there is out there. And then just looking at the entire state at once, we're currently about 195% of normal. That number is starting to become less meaningful because what's probably more interesting to viewers and to listeners is that we're well outside of the 1983 record at this point. We've now surpassed all the previous years since we started measuring snowpack at our snowtell sites, going back to the 1980 timeframe. And we now are confident to say that we have the greatest snowpack in Utah since 1952. So this puts us at the really the best snowpack that we've seen in over 70 years. We're taking the snowpack information and we're correlating it to stream flow. We're looking at how much our reservoir is going to fill up. And so what we do is we create volumetric forecasts, which look at the overall volume of water that's going to go to each one of the forecast points in the state from the beginning of April until the end of July. These are water supply forecasts. So we're looking at an overall quantity of water that's going to be available for all the things that we use water for: agriculture, municipal purposes, everything. We still do have a large portion of the state in some level of drought, but it's not those three worst categories anymore. And that's been really phenomenal to see that change. It's a little bit hard to characterize what stage we are in the drought in the state of Utah because there's really no perfect way to answer that question. It's great to see the drought map getting updated with less severe categories, and that's definitely relevant. We do anticipate most of our reservoirs, with the exception of a few large ones, most of our reservoirs will fill this year with all the snow that's all the water that's stored in our snowpack. What we're not going to see this year is replenishing of our most major water bodies. So the Great Salt Lake, Lake Powell downstream. We need to do a pretty good job filling up Flaming Gorge, and that's not really coming from Utah, but that's also something that's a concern because obviously there's connectivity to Lake Powell and other things. Some of our really large reservoirs like Strawberry, Bear Lake are probably not going to fill. And so there's still a need for an additional large snowpack year next year, but we're making really great progress.
Well, Jordan and I talked about what's known as the D word. That's what we talked about. Here it is on a map, right? The different colors do mean different things, right? So the yellow that you can see here, abnormally dry towards the north, the west, the eastern portion of the state, no real concerns along the eastern fringe. Then you move your way in as we take it full here for you. And then through the core of the state, that little belly portion, that's our most severe spot. So actually saying severe drought, well, Sevier County was the last place to really experience that red category, which would be extreme drought. So the folks at the Division of Water Resources, obviously they've been following this closely. They've also been asking people, especially during our heavy drought months, to conserve, be cautious with the water they're using. I caught up with Laura Haskell, the state drought coordinator, and asked her how she's feeling by seeing the extreme drought taken off this map.
Great. It has been almost 3 years since we have seen no extreme drought in the state, and it's great news to finally be at this point.
What does this show about the winter that we've had so far?
It was better than we could have possibly expected. It's been a great year with lots of water in the snow, and also it's been statewide. Some years, we have an area that gets hit really well and then another area that misses out. And this year it's been the whole state.
What does this say about what we need going forward still?
We do still need to always conserve because we do live in one of the driest states in the nation, and our water source is our snowpack. And so once it's gone for the year, it's gone. If we hadn't had full reservoirs at the start of this drought, we would have been in a pretty bad situation because that's what got us through the drought. This year has almost been a game changer. It was a lot better than any of us anticipated, and we're just happy about it.
Oh boy. So obviously, Sterling,
news.
you are well aware of what this map shows, and
Yeah.
it's been a few years in the making at this point.
The central part of Utah has really been suffering. Last year, there was basically no water in the Sevier
Reservoirs
River.
with zero.
The ranchers ran out of their water shares in April. They had no water after April, and so they were actually just not watering. They were letting many of their ranches just die. The grasses died. They'll come back, but they just let them. So they'd pick one patch out of their ranch and water that, and then so they'd have some feed for their cows, because finding hay around the west was very hard and it was very expensive. So it was not really productive for them to go out and try to find hay. So they started to at least keep one patch of their alfalfa or whatever hay they were growing going.
Well, you heard from Laura there. She called this year pretty much a game changer. So
yeah, it is.
It's been a game changer. It could make some changes, obviously, in the coming months. We will keep an eye on that.
It's going to make headlines.
Yes, it definitely will. Sterling, Brian, we're leaving you because it's Friday. It's about that time. Thanks for watching 2 News Live. We're back here Monday, 5:30. Hope you join us again. We're going to go in depth on more conversations, of course, topics that impact you and your family. Have a wonderful weekend. We're back on Monday. Take care.
See ya. Take care.